What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie games, we're going to be taking a look at something a little bit special, I think. As you no doubt noticed from the title, I said that this game is turn-based Rimworld, and that's okay, and I absolutely mean that, actually. I'm not one of those people that wants to draw correlations between games too much. I usually try not to unless, like, the visible standard is there and it's easily identifiable. But in the case of Dotage, I think this is one of those games that people are going to pass over because the art style is kind of simplistic. It's got like a 32-bit color thing going on, not a whole lot of shading. It's not a game that jumps off the Steam page at you just from like its key art and from like its header. And so I figured I would give it a little bit of time here and explain to you what Dotage is. Now, we've covered this game a couple times in the past, and I think the last couple times I covered this game, it didn't quite hit me exactly what it was because you need to get further on into the game than like previous demos allowed me with a 30-minute show-off in order to get to that meat of the gameplay and show you what's special about this title. But this time I've spent about 2 or 3 hours with the game prior to the recording of this video, doing multiple runs, playing around with it, and getting a feel for the rhythm of the game. That way I can actually explain to you more of the tropes that the game is playing with in order to get its gameplay out there, rather than just kind of going in blind and giving you impressions. This is a little bit more detailed. So Dotage, what is it? When is it available? It's available right now. The game is done. It's not in early access. This is one of those rare cases where a game has released in 1.0 with loads of content, tons of stuff to do, in a fully featured playable form with no bugs that I've seen so far over the last couple hours, and everything just works. It's ready to go straight out of the box, and it's a game where you're a village elder. Technically, I'm this little old guy right here, and you're directing villagers around in a fantasy world where prophecies will frequently shatter the realm and kind of get in the way of your collective success and survival. And it's effectively Rimworld put into turn-based formats. This is a game about building buildings. This is a game about inputs and outputs and getting the things you need in order to survive. But there's also external threats. But those external threats are not like militaristic or magical or anything else. They're sort of rectified by these meters up at the top, and we'll talk about what that means as we get further on into the game. But this is a game that definitely requires metagame knowledge and careful calculation of how you defeat some of the challenges that are going to come up, and you actively need to use your knowledge in between runs to get better each time. This game is a lot like Rimworld in the respect that each time you play, it doesn't seem like there's like a victory goal. I mean, I guess there is. Each of these old guys has like a story or whatever, but you play through the game and basically like random events are going to happen as you play through, and you've just got to solve those. Otherwise, your entire society grinds to a halt and you lose. And so having some foreknowledge of what's coming and what can happen helps a lot. Like, consider this turn-based Rimworld, but a lot of the events are kind of like nuclear fallout. They are meaningful. They matter. They hurt a lot if you don't do something about them. And so the main gameplay focus becomes you trying to stop those horrible prophecies from taking place. If after watching this you wanted to get Dotage for yourself, I got a link for you down below in the description. I recommend it. I think the game is quite good. It's rare that I say that at the beginning of a video, but here we are. On top of that, you'll also find a link to my Twitch stream and my Discord down below if you wanted to hang out live every single day of the week. I will be live on Twitch the day that this video goes live. So let's crack on into this thing here and get around to what it is that we're trying to do. I'm about 50 or 60 days into a playthrough on this one. That's roughly, I would say, probably about an hour into a run. If you're taking about 1 minute per turn, it's a very rapid-fire game. You could put in as much as you want to each turn, or you can just let it go and see what happens. Basically, this is my village. I've got a number of buildings around here. I'll give you the grand tour. We've got a lumber mill up here. It collects lumber. I've got a foraging camp right here. They're collecting weeds so that we can make all kinds of like hemp products. We've got researchers down here. They sit at these desks and they just think about stuff all day long. We've got chickens over here and a hunter that's hunting those chickens. That meat is then going into the barbecue grill to produce 7 portions of food per day. There are also other supplementary resources around that I can assign people to gather from day by day. So we've got like strawberry fields down here. We've got berry bushes. This right here, this little picket fence, this is the I guess this is the extent of my domain, I guess. I can't really build outside of that, but we can expand it a little bit by putting in signboards and stuff like that to give ourselves more building space. I don't actually know what happens if I destroy that right there. I guess I lose my access to the strawberries down there if I do it. But signposts are how you expand out your domain. Houses can be also used to do it. You do have a maximum pop cap. So right now I can fit one more human being on in here. Every single day, each human eats one food. This is all of our food up here. This is our wood. This is all of our various other side sundries that we've been pulling out of the environment. And at the moment, we have 2 pressing threats. So this campaign is almost entirely... I guess it's entirely submerged in the god of fear. So you've got the fear domain, which is an active threat up here, and it's got a timer. Any of these have a little dangling flag from them with a number on it. That's how long before something bad happens according to that domain. Basically, we have a prophecy about fear. Something bad is going to happen in 6 days, and we're going to have to figure out how to fix that. There's also heat, because we are in the summertime right now. So the heat domain, if it had a little flag and like a little ticking clock down here, would also be able to spit events at us that would maybe light our domain on fire or cause our crops to wither. But this game kind of gives you, so you may have like raised an eyebrow when I said that Rimworld, it's Rimworld, but every single event is kind of nuclear fallout. You're probably saying to yourself, that sucks. Nuclear fallout blows in Rimworld. That's like one of the worst events to get if you're not ready for it and you don't have like a good economy and things ready to go and you haven't built properly. True, but this game gives you mitigative circumstances. So I can put people to work over here on these fans and it will give me coldness points. And coldness points will shift this meter over to the right until it hits 100%, and then it converts the heat event into a positive event that does something good for me. Likewise, I can do the same thing with fear events. And so this game is kind of interesting in that the randomized events are incredibly meaningful. Like, they matter a lot, but the game does give you all the tools you require in order to mitigate those events and turn them into something positive, so long as you divert the manpower to do so. But that's obviously going to have negative effects on other parts of your industry. And that's where the entire gameplay loop comes in. You stay alive for as long as humanly possible while producing things and mitigating events. At the end, you'll get a bunch of memory points. You use those memory points to unlock new threats, new challenges, new buildings, new good things that can happen randomly, and that's the entire point of the game. And honestly, it's definitely captured that one more turn. I think it has deeply grasped onto that one more turn desire that a lot of games have, and so I'm excited to show it off here today. I know we're 8 minutes into the episode and I haven't really done anything yet, but this is a complex game that actually requires like a big header before you go on into it, because it's interesting. Not a lot of games in existence are interesting. This game is interesting. So let's go ahead. I've got some extra research ready to go. I think we should probably get the workbench over here. That'll come out on the next turn, because from an event I have stored up knowledge already. So I have 22 extra points waiting to be allocated. And we'll just go ahead and run that. And as you can see, all of the resources that I had set up are now being tabulated, and they are being thrown into our storage. It's going to go through kind of like, I've got it on speedy mode right now. It goes to like nighttime, and you can see people walking around and doing stuff. But I found that the turns took too long when I had it in that mode, so I put it in speedy mode, so it like auto passes my turns basically super fast, and it just like gives me my resources, my inputs, and my outputs, and then we kind of move on. We've got a workbench right there. That's probably a good thing to have. It looks like in 5 days we're going to have an omen event. That's going to be one of the major prophecies that we need to resolve. You'll have to forgive me, but I don't remember exactly where the menu is to open up. There's like a prophecy scroll. It's got really good pixel art, and it like unrolls. I don't know if I can open it whenever I want or whenever we get like a new prophecy. I'm not really too sure, but we also have a timeline down here. Crafting. I think we definitely want to put down the tool bench. I don't know exactly where I can build it. It looks like it has to be attached to the lumber mill. So I guess I'll go ahead and put that right there. We've got one guy assigned. Top right-hand corner, you can see how many free villagers you have, working villagers you have, and people that are wounded, sick, or otherwise can't be assigned to any tasks because of events or disasters or disease or something like that. This would be a really good time, in fact, for us to take people off research. And I wanted to upgrade one of these to a level 2 research station as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. We'll reassign him back to research on that side. Our food needs are already being taken care of by the barbecue. We have 7 citizens, and it produces 7 food per turn. So we shouldn't have to worry about too much on that side. Let's go ahead and select ourselves a new research. I would say that the next research that I want to dive into... would probably be fields of barley or something like that. I mean, I think a tomato field is not a terrible idea either. Let's get tomato fields real fast, and then we'll get barley fields or something next. You don't keep your researches in between runs unless you've done like metagame unlocks with the memories that your various elders are going to give you. Let's go ahead and run that right there. We'll watch things go in and we'll watch things go out. We should get our workbench done. We've also built our large study over on this side, which is really fantastic because that's going to boost up our research and the amount of it that we can produce. And our researches are, in fact, getting quite expensive right now. Now, we are going to need to specialize our pips, our civilians, in order to get them to work inside this location. And once we give them that job, they can only do that job. So right now, they're kind of like general purpose villagers. That's really, really good, but it's really inefficient. If you want the buildings that start spitting out like real resources and giving you like large amounts of headway and kind of like breathing room against the in-game events, you're going to want to train somebody up to be a thinker over here. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, because it kind of frees this guy up to go do other work because we're getting the same research output from one building that we were previously getting out of two. And if we find that if our research is not good enough, we're not thunking hard enough, we can just convert this guy over as well, and it's no biggie, no harm, no foul. We do have the tomato field. I think it's probably a really good idea for us to start expanding the domain and going like further out and capturing more stuff. And so I'll probably do that right there because that gives me access to, I think, it gives me access to another strawberry field, which is nice. That's another food resource that I could fall back on if things get ugly. We could also technically go out this way and start working our way towards more chickens, because those are putting out loads of food. With a secondary barbecue, that might not be a bad idea either. Let's work towards the secondary chickens. I think that feels like our play here. In the meantime, you come out here and go ahead and build that for me. Workbench is not quite done yet. We have another research that's ready to rattle off. I'm going to suggest we maybe pick up the bonfire because that allows us to generate heat points. It's not immediately relevant right now, but it will be relevant once we get to fall and they introduce the cold domain to replace the fire domain or the heat domain. And we don't have that research yet, so having that research would be good. We'll just grab that as kind of like an early mitigative thing that we possess. Signpost has been built. Workbench has also been built. Thinker training is now done, so we're producing more research at this junction. That's really good. That was an incredibly eventful turn for us that mattered. But then again, this is kind of like an interesting game in the respect that every turn is kind of meaningful. There will occasionally be those rare turns where you just like bypass 5 turns in a row, but they're pretty rare and few and far between, and I actually think that's fairly impressive for a game of this genre. A lot of games of this genre, there are meaningless turns. With this game, I feel like most of my turns are spent doing something, like accomplishing some kind of task in order to advance society a little bit. We'll go ahead and put another thinker back over here so that we're getting our 3 research. It may be time to start getting another person, I think. We may want to make another pip. So I'm going to take this guy off of farming hemp. And I'll probably take this lady off barbecuing. No, this lady off chicken harvesting, I suppose. Then we'll come down here. We'll assign them to go give each other flowers. They will produce a new pip. Our food overhead will go up by 1. That's okay. We're only losing 1 food per day. And as you can see, we've got loads and loads of food stocked up. So it shouldn't be too big of an issue to resolve, especially given the fact that I'm about to open up a chicken ranch down here, I think. So the chicken ranch should mitigate that as well and allow us to produce a lot more food and maybe get like a second barbecue possibly. We also need to build a well because we have no way to put out fires right now. So next turn we'll probably be building wells. In fact, let's get the upgraded well going. They'll get that worked on while we're hanging tight. So as you can see, they're going to do the old baby making shuffle. We're going to get a new baby, and we're going to be able to play around with it. What I like about this game, so there is something charming about real-time Rimworld that I like a lot. I have like loads and loads of hours in Rimworld. It's one of my most played games. What I like about this game, though, is it takes the formula from Rimworld, which is really like dealing and mitigating uncertainty. That's ultimately the point of Rimworld, is coming up with ways to mitigate the uncertainty of raids, to mitigate the uncertainty of, you know, insectoid robots coming in and wiping you out, of famine, of plague, fibrous mechananites, or whatever it is that you picked up along the way. What this game does is it's about mitigating that risk, but also it gives you, like, active mechanics. So, like, imagine if in Rimworld it said nuclear fallout is coming, but by building a certain device inside of 30 days, you could redirect that nuclear fallout towards one of your enemies and wipe them out, and it counts as a boon. That's what this game does, is it adds that extra lever you can pull to mitigate those circumstances on the fly that I think makes it really compelling, because when you're looking at the research menu, you're like, well, I could use that if this happens, and I could use that if this happens. And so there's kind of like, I think, a level of intuitiveness to this game that once you get over the initial learning hump, there's interesting stuff going on. Let's go ahead and do I actually have... I need 2 stones for that, and then we could upgrade this hunting lodge over here. It looks like I actually don't have the thing that I thought that I had. I thought I had a chicken farm in here, but I guess I don't have a chicken farm. Okay, so in my not having of a chicken farm then, we're going to do a healer's shrine right here. How many extra workers do I have? 3? Good. So we're going to do a healer's shrine right here for if people get sick. That way I can generate health points, which are the opposite of plague points. That's right, there's a fear domain, there's a plague domain, there's a fire domain, and these are just going to come up randomly. You're never going to know what you're going to get next. Some of them are logically going to make sense, like the heat domain in summer, but sometimes, like, disease domain will pop up because, like, one person didn't get to eat while you were shifting your industry around or whatever. Now you've just got to deal with that forever. And so there's lots of interesting little things that happen here with this title. Lots of little intricacies, I guess. I do have a chicken pen. There he is. So where does the chicken pen actively go? Oh, the chicken pen actively requires a house to be in the neighborhood. Okay, I can deal with that then. Let's build a house. If we build a house right there, it lets us claim those strawberries up there. I could take that. That sounds good to me. And then we've got one worker that's sprinting on over there to take care of the business. I almost kind of want to go. I almost kind of want to train this guy into a thinker. Kinda. Feels like a strong play to me. I gotta upgrade it first, though, too. We'll leave it as it lies right now. I've got 1 extra worker, though. Just have that extra worker go gather strawberries. We got nothing else going on anyways, so just bolster up the food supply. You can hold at max 40 of these things inside this tab when you upgrade your central castle, which is this bivouac right here. Once you upgrade this into like a fortress or whatever else, your storage will go up accordingly. And then you'll be able to have like 80 of each resource or like, 50 of each resource. So on and so forth. Did our new minion grow up? Oh, there he is. There's our little kid right there. I was going to say, I didn't know where the child was at. Like, I knew he was around here like somewhere, but I wasn't exactly sure where. Yeah, just bypass a turn real quick until we get that house up and running. I don't think there's a lot we could do, but I think the prophecy is about to fall in on us, so here comes the omen. Someone is distressed, apparently. We're now attracting explosions, which is kind of interesting. So she had a fit of anger. There was nothing we could do to stop that from happening, but now we have the ability to stop that from happening. So this should escalate, basically. So these domains, they will get more and more threatening, and they will generate more and more nastiness as time goes along. And you will have to have hope in order to get rid of that, which you can get from, like, meeting places or, like, dinner tables where people hang out collectively. So as you can see, +1 fear is now happening per turn because we have that one person who's distressed. They're just kind of going to, like, stay that way. And so what we need to do is we need to start generating hope points to cancel out the fear points. Is she actually, like, working right now? It looks like she's just kind of walking around raving like a lunatic. All right, so now that that's built, that's fine. You guys come over here, generate some hope points to mitigate the +1 negative points that we're getting. This is going to, so countering these events is going to take a considerable amount of manpower. That's just a fact. It's going to take a little bit of doing to make that happen. I do finally have the spot for my chicken coop, which I think is pretty cool. So we'll probably put the chicken coop right there. We'll reassign the lumber harvester to go work on that. This building right here is not functioning because it's out of season, by the way, in case you're wondering why it keeps flashing a red X at me. I built it earlier to play around with to see if there was a workaround to get it to work year-round, or if there was any like skills or anything I could take to make it happen. Alas, not exactly the way that that works, unfortunately. We also have a research that's up and ready to ride. We've got our upgraded well, which is great. We're probably going to want to learn to do the butcher's table or possibly the egg farm. Let's do the egg farm, and we'll see what happens with the egg farm. Egg farm feels like a good choice for food to me because the barbecue and the hunter are pushing out a lot of food. The egg farm, if that produces like 4 or 5 eggs per turn, like, poof, we're good to grow. It's going to be explosive growth from them on in. I don't know when this kid's going to grow up. Probably grow up at some point. Oh no, what's wrong with this guy? Ugh, we got the cataclysm domain now. So the village has gained 2 nature. All right. The cataclysm domain is now looming. So having picked up the nature domain, that's because we built the chicken coop. The chicken coop, I think, triggers that. Not totally sure about that, but it feels like it probably triggers that. It looks like nobody needs to man the chicken coop, which is a very, very good thing because I didn't want to spare the manpower to fiddle around with it. I don't know how frequently it's going to generate more chickens for us, but hey, hopefully it generates some chickens in the near future, and then I can put an egg farm next to it, and that'll fix things on up. We've got 1 extra guy. Go ahead and go gather that right there. It looks like we're slightly outrunning this. We'll probably need some more hope, though. I think I have another meeting area where they can smoke weed or something, and it makes things all better. Oh no, I have the shared table. That's what it is. I think the shared table allows us to exchange food and water. Yeah, so we're going to need water first. So let's go ahead and I am going to find the well. So there's our nice well right there. I think that's probably a good thing to build right about now. I think we want the well to kind of be like right there because we can surround it with crop plots. And you get fat bonuses for crop plots being around a well. That's right, some of these buildings also combo together. So you're also having to not only be mindful of what buildings do I have, what crises am I mitigating, what things are coming up, what researches do I have in order to get like the next thing. Also, you need to keep track of like patterns. There are patterns to the buildings where if you put them together in kind of like a cross-stitch way, you get way more outputs. And so once again, another one of those levels where this game kind of has a lot of stuff going on underneath the hood, and I think like it's probably not getting credit for that, and it should be getting credit for that because this game is actually kind of magnificent when you step back and sort of look at it through that lens of being like the turn-based Rimworld that I mentioned in the title. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ah, we now have the health domain. So there you go. The health domain. Someone got good wishes. We actually had a good event right there. A level 2 good event. So everyone in the village gained 4 health. That doesn't matter. These guys don't have health meters. What it matters for is that we now have the disease domain, and we have 4 health points to sort of insulate us against anything that the disease domain might throw at us. I see we have been cursed, an omen is coming, and something bad is going to happen. Okay, so the health domain, we're going to have something bad happen. In 6 days, we cannot influence the first outcome of it, so we don't really worry about it. We just know that it's coming in 6 days. No clue when this event is converging. Let's look at the prophecy real fast. There you go. Muscle memory took over. So there's sickness domain right there, an unknown to met. So we've got what looks like 6 or 7 days to bolster up our hope versus this. We're currently getting like what? 8% a day. So we'll probably only need to let this run for like 3 or 4 more days, and then we can focus on health and insulating versus that. Yeah. It'll get there. We just kind of need to wait for these. So if you see these little pips along the top, these pips are how awoken this thread is. Like how woke the thread is, I suppose. And so right here, there's 2 awakening pips. So that's why it's generating 1 power of fear per turn. Once this one gets up to there, it'll generate 1 power of heat per turn, so on and so forth. And it just happens with random events. You never quite know when you're going to get hit by some of this stuff. It just sort of happens when it happens. And the well is being built. That's good. We need to generate some more wood for sure. We have an extra villager to play around with. Probably take that guy off strawberries for right now because losing 1 food per turn is not statistically relevant to us. And then I think we'll probably want the shared table once we start gathering water. I think the shared table is kind of just like a better version of this guy right here. So I think it'll be all right. And one thing, I don't know if you noticed what happened when I placed that. We didn't have enough wood to place that, but when it takes into account our surplus, we do have enough wood. So it just lets you go ahead and do that. It doesn't soft lock you. Lots of really good quality of life here with little features like that. Like things that I tend to look for in games. Those things exist here. It's Dotage, man. It's a really, really solid title. If you are in to like bone-jarringly hard city builders like Frostpunk's later expansions, or like Randy Random Rimworld like I am, I think this is a game that 100% will capture your attention. I think it will capture your imagination. I think you will have a good time with it. I feel very confident saying that after playing for a couple of hours, even though I haven't seen all the other leaders, even though I haven't unlocked most of the technologies. Like, this is one of those games that you can... I've been playing for 2.5 hours and you can feel it already. So for a first impressions video, I'll just say this. My impressions are very positive. This game's only sin is that I think the art style is a little bit flat and could use like a tiny bit more depth to it and a little bit more shading and like a few more colors because it is very bright and hard on the eyes from time to time. But other than that, which is just a personal taste thing, so not even really kind of a critique, just a thing for me is that the game is a little bright and a little bit garish. Other than that, though, this is a really, really good colony survival game. And you're probably cheating yourself if you don't check it out. My name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what's worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day so that you don't have to. Today up on the chopping block, it was a little title called Dotage. Tomorrow, it will be a different title. Thank you for swinging on through. And if you enjoyed the video, come hang out with me live. I'll see you then. Take care, folks.